What's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason. Today I have a couple of hours. I'm back in the garage working on the 6.0 CUCV project. The UPS driver brought by pretty much all of the pieces I need to finish up the front end work, suspension, steering, and all of that. Hopefully I can retain the sway bar, but I'm just gonna get started on this thing. Like I said, I don't have a lot of time, so I'll give you any updates as I come across stuff and get it done. All right, everybody, so the first thing I'm gonna do here is get my high steer arm attached. You put your 4 studs in the 4 holes, you put your arm on top, pump it full of really nice grease, tighten it down, you're good to go. All right, so we got our high steering, crossover steering arm installed on the passenger side. We'll get our springless adapter installed over here on the driver's side, and then we'll finish getting the sway bar off and out of the way and keep on going. We're cruising. We got our spring eliminator kit installed on the driver's side kingpin. We've got our high steer arm installed on the passenger side kingpin. Next we're going to get the sway bar removed, and then we're going to get the leaf springs and shocks unbolted. Everybody, so a lot of progress out here. We got the front end completely undone from the truck. I did, however, undo the front and rear of the leaf springs because I've ordered all new urethane bushings. The bushings that were in there were pretty smashed. They were old rubber, they were crunchy and crusty. So new urethane bushings in the front leaf springs and in the front shackles are gonna make this thing handle better, ride better, and it's gonna make the steering work better. So everything I'm doing is to try to get the front end of this thing as tight and as street worthy, as good driving as possible. Because I want anybody to be able to get into this thing and drive it and have a good time. And I want to be safe when I'm driving it. And I want the people around me to be safe when I'm driving it. So I've got all the old stuff out. The front spring bushings really fought. I think those were the originals. It looks like the rear bushings had been replaced already by somebody else, but they were still just a crummy rubber bushing, and I'm replacing with all urethane. I'll get the bushings put in, and then I'll get my new Pitman arm and tie rod, well, drag link, fabbed up and installed. So, I figured I'd show you how to do these bushings. Usually, if you buy a decent quality bushing, they'll come with a little bit of grease. You get a little bit of grease on the outside of your bushing. Not a lot. Smear it around. This will help stop them from squeaking. It helps them go in a little bit, not much. But it will help make sure that your bushings don't start to squeak down the road, and you get it to wherever you're putting it into, and you push it in. Now, these are supposed to be tight, So sometimes they're harder to get in than others. If you need to, you can use like a soft dead blow hammer. There you go, that one's all the way in. Use your dead blow to drive it in. Once you have both sides in, get a little bit on your inside piece, on your sleeve. Again, start it. Once it's started, use your dead blow. Through. There we go. All right, so I've got all my bushings in place now. So I'm gonna jack the differential up. That'll let me get my lower bolts in on the rear shackles. And then I'll get all my nuts started, and then I'll get everything tightened down. And then all we have left to do is get our new drop pitman arm and our drag link put on. And then the front end will be ready to go. Okay, we got all of our suspension bolts in. Front, rear shackle, same on the other side. So now we'll get all those bolts torqued down. We'll get our shocks hooked back up. And then we're gonna work on building our new drag link for the crossover steering. We got all our suspension bolts tightened up. We got our shock absorbers back on. We've got our high steer arm here and our kingpin spring eliminator on the other side. So now I'm gonna jack it up, get it off the jack stands that are holding it up at the frame. I'm gonna throw some weight on the front of the frame just to simulate having an engine and transmission in this thing and the rest of the sheet metal. I want it as close to the actual ride height as possible. And then I'm gonna throw the new drop pitman arm onto this 2-wheel drive steering gearbox. And then I'm gonna measure, cut, and weld up our new drag link for the crossover steering. All right, so we're gonna get this pitman arm and drag link installed and have our crossover steering set up. I centered the steering gear. I've got my wheels pointed straight ahead, at least as straight as I can get it. I'll have a little bit of adjustment left once I get my my drag link made, but I want to start with it as close to straight ahead as possible. So now my next step is get my drop pitman arm here, slid up onto the steering gear shaft, point it as straight back as possible to make sure it's centered too. I'll get the nut pulled up on tight so it's locked in place and not gonna move. And then I'll measure, cut, weld, and build the drag link. All right, I've got my tie rod ends here. Blue sleeving stands for left-handed thread. And this is my tube insert that's threaded on the inside. Red is for right-handed thread. This is my tubing insert that goes for right-handed thread on the inside of the tube. These are standard 1-ton GM tie rod ends. Buy them at any local auto parts store. There's nothing fancy about them. So I'll get these set into place. I'll get these threaded tube inserts centered on the thread of the tie rod end, and then I'll be able to measure for my piece of tube. Okay guys, I got my tie rod end mounted to the passenger side steering arm. I got my other tie rod end mounted to the pitman arm. They're pointed directly at each other, straight across the truck here. So now I'll get underneath, I'll pull the duct tape or the measuring tape from this shoulder to this shoulder. I'll get my measurement, I'll cut my piece of tube to that length, and then I'll weld my thread inserts into that tube, and this drag link will be ready to go. you've never done something like this before, it's extremely important that you let the ends cool completely down before you try to put your tie rods in. Otherwise the thread seize and gall, and you essentially just have a digging bar. So you have to let it cool off completely before you try to put your threaded ends back into it. All right, while we're waiting for that drag link to cool down, we might as well get our grease fittings installed. All right, everybody, so my drag link is cooled down. I'll get this threaded in. I'm gonna put anti-seize on it because I do not want this thing to seize up on me. And then I'll get it threaded onto the other side, anti-seize on that side also. And then we'll stick this thing up in there. So, it looks like we're gonna have to do a lift kit on this thing. I want the crossover steering. I think that's gonna be important to making this thing drive the way I want it to. So, looks like I'm gonna be hopping online and looking for some little, probably like a 2-inch add-a-leaf kit to get this front end up just a little bit higher. All right, everybody, well, now we know that when they say you need to have a lift kit installed in order for the crossover steering kit to clear all your cross members, they mean it. It's not a recommendation, it's a requirement. So, had to try it for myself. I wanted to see, like I said, I want to keep this truck as low as possible. I don't want to put a big lift kit on it. I have a set of extended, beefier shackles that I may put on and try those first, see if that gives me enough space. If not, then I'll just go ahead and order probably a 2-inch add-a-leaf kit for the front of this thing. That'll pick it up high enough that I'll have clearance, and I should be level at that point, so I won't have to worry about lifting the rear also. All right, everybody, so I left off with our drag link that we fabricated up. Doesn't fit because it's contacting our engine cross member right here, which isn't allowing me to get the castellated nut fully tightened down on the pitman arm. So I thought about it all last night, marinated on it, and what I'm gonna try first, primarily because I have the parts here and I don't have to spend any more money, is I have this HD shackle kit left over. It was on a previous project that I did, and then I wound up taking it apart and putting the guts and the drivetrain and the good pieces into other projects. So this HD shackle kit, if I remember correctly, adds about 1.5 to 2 inches of lift. So I'm gonna get this installed first and see if that gives me the clearance I need for my drag link to fit and clear the engine cross member. All right, we got the old shackle hangers off. There's driver's side is off, passenger side is off. I've got my HD shackle hangers right over here. Now these come with these flange washers and nuts and bolts here. And I mean, it comes with this grade. I mean, I'm gonna guess it's grade 5 hardware, but I have some nice grade 9 hardened bolts. So I'm going to use these to get them bolted up to the frame. Just, I feel more confident in them that way. Alright everybody, so we got our heavy duty shackle upgrade done, all tightened down, ready to go, and it literally, I mean, our drag link isn't touching the cross member, but I don't think it could get much closer. We'll just have to figure it out. For now, it's steerable, I can do what I need to do. And then once I get it, I can't put a lift kit on it in the garage anyway, so once I get it out of the garage, then I'll have to get, probably like I said, like a 2-inch add-a-leaf kit for the front, just to get that up enough that the steering's not going to hit every time I hit a bump. So, it's something. Progress. Things don't always go the way you hope, but you learn and you keep on moving forward. We'll see you in the next video.